Thousands have marched in central London to demand a second vote on Brexit 2 years to the day since the Leave campaign's victory in the 2016 referendum. The anti-Brexit campaigners marched on Parliament on Saturday calling for a people's vote on whether to approve the final deal Theresa May strikes with the EU. The People's Vote campaign, which includes several pro-EU groups, aims to ensure a public ballot so that we can decide if a decision that will affect our lives for generations makes the country better or worse off. Former Labour spin Dr. Alastair Campbell and pro-Remain Tory MP Anna Soubry were present, while actor Tony Robinson said he attended as he had a deep and abiding love for my country. In a speech on stage he went on, "It's an old-fashioned and embarrassing word, but I am a patriot. I am deeply offended that word has been hijacked by a few reactionary colonialists over their gesturing at Parliament who peddle the fantasy of a UK that never existed except perhaps in the imaginations of their nannies and parlourmaids." Saturday marks 2 years since the Leave campaign won the referendum with 52% of the vote to Remain's 48%. Former Labour spin Dr. Alastair Campbell said, "I honestly do think this People's Vote campaign can be the way out for the politicians. Because the cabinet can't decide, Parliament can't decide, the Labour Party's divided, the country's divided. This week's, I think, been a turning point in some ways. You had the Brexit dividend thing falling apart overnight, you've had Airbus and all these other companies coming out and saying we're making plans to move. Share this article, share. I think there's been a massive show of strength here with the march." Boris Johnson has urged the Prime Minister to deliver a full British Brexit as cabinet colleagues warned the UK is able to walk away without a deal. Matthew Mann, from South Gloucestershire, who moved to the Netherlands in 2016 for work, said, "I'm here to show what a European looks like." The ad consultant said, "I'm married to a French wife. I have 2 children who are dual national, and we live in Holland and are caught up in this administrative mess. I have lived and worked across Europe, it's home." Anti-Brexit campaigner Gina Miller, who took legal action to ensure Article 50 was not triggered without an act of Parliament, spoke at the march. She told crowds it is simply dishonest for them in that house to say that they still believe the will of the people is the same as it was 2 years ago. "Together we must stand up, demand our voices are heard, demand a people's vote. It's time we took this back to the streets, the towns and the villages, the meadows and the squares of this country." University academic Robert Brady, 62, who works in the computer science department, said, "I have an Italian wife, I work in Cambridge, she works in Rome. I think we're technically what's called border workers." He added he thought a second referendum was almost inevitable as demographically, younger people are in favor, they want jobs, they don't want to sing Elgar. But Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell said he would prefer a general election to a second referendum in the event a Brexit deal cannot be agreed and approved before the UK leaves the European Union. Addressing the annual conference of the Grassroots Open Labour Group in London, he said he wanted to avoid a UKIP resurgence or a repeat of xenophobia that marred the 2016 vote. The MP, whose Hayes and Harlington constituency in West London is estimated to have voted Leave, said, "I have said time and time again we don't want to rule out any form of democratic engagement. My view, I would rather have a general election. I don't want to repeat a referendum where there is a prospect of UKIP reviving again or having that xenophobia that affected my community because I have got a Polish community in Hayes as well." International Trade Secretary Liam Fox said the UK was not bluffing about being prepared to walk away from talks with Brussels, and Brexit Secretary David Davis said there is lots going on to prepare in case negotiations collapse. It came after Airbus said that, if Britain were to leave the EU without a deal it would be forced to reconsider its long-term position and put UK jobs at risk. Catherine Bennett, Airbus's senior vice president in the UK, said, "We don't deal in idle threats. We seriously believe a no-deal Brexit would be catastrophic." BMW also warned that the political uncertainty was affecting its investment in Britain. Catherine Bennett, Airbus's senior vice president in the UK, said, "We don't deal in idle threats. We seriously believe a no-deal Brexit would be catastrophic." Mr. Johnson said the public were keen to get on with breaking away from Brussels. "Across the country I find people who, whatever they voted 2 years ago, just want us to get on and do it," he said. "They don't want a half-hearted Brexit. They don't want some sort of hopeless compromise, some perpetual push-pull-you arrangement in which we stay half in and half out in a political no-man's land with no more ministers round the table in Brussels and yet forced to obey EU laws. They don't want some bog-roll Brexit, soft, yielding and seemingly infinitely long. They want this government to fulfill the mandate of the people and deliver a full British Brexit." Speaking at the march, MP for Tottenham David Lammy said the Foreign Secretary's remarks about a bog-roll Brexit are no longer humorous. He said, "I think Boris Johnson forgets the dignity of his role and the importance of the livelihoods of ordinary British people." The day after that announcement from Airbus, I thought his statement was unseemly and deeply inappropriate given his role as Foreign Secretary. On senior cabinet members warning the UK was prepared to walk away from talks with Brussels, he said, "This is megalomania. Walking away without a deal would be an absolute economic disaster for this country. For God's sake, get real. The British people deserve a lot more than a no-deal Brexit." Former Liberal Democrat leader Nick Clegg added, "There's a growing momentum saying, after 2 years, that's long enough to have given the Brexiteers their chance. Let's now make sure that the people have their say, that there's a people's vote when a final deal is struck." Liberal Democrat leader Sir Vince Cable, Tory former Minister Anna Salisbury and Green co-leader Carolyn Lucas were also at the march. Sir Vince said Brexit is not a done deal or inevitable and can be stopped. Parliament is fiddling at the margins while the country slowly burns, he warned, as he calls on the government to vote on the deal or no deal with the option of staying in the EU. A UK government spokesman said, "To be clear, this government does not want nor expect a no-deal outcome from these negotiations. As a part of our withdrawal agreement, we have already agreed the continued recognition of these qualifications where recognition decisions were received or where recognition procedures were ongoing before the end of the implementation period. The government will seek to agree a continued system for the mutual recognition of professional qualifications as part of our future relationship with the EU, and we are working in good faith towards a deal."